The Brihat Yogavasishta or Yogavasishta Maharamayana, as it is also called, is a work of about 32,000 Sanskrit couplets traditionally attributed to sage Valmiki, the author of Srimad Ramayana. It is a dialogue between sage Vasishtha and Sri Rama, during which Advaita, the doctrine of non-duality, in its purest form of Ajatavada, that is, theory of non-origination, is expounded with illustrative stories in between. This vast work was abridged some centuries ago by Abhinanda Pandita, a Kashmiri scholar, into 6,000 couplets, which go by the name of Laghu Yoga Vasishta. This is a masterpiece in itself, like the original Brihat. Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi used to refer to Yoga Vasishta frequently and has even incorporated 6 couplets from it in his supplement to 40 verses, verses 21 to 27. A further condensation of this work was made long ago by an unknown author into about 230 couplets divided into 10 chapters as Yoga Vasishta Saara, meaning essence of Yoga Vasishta, of which this translation is presented here for the first time. By making this condensation, the author has rendered a great service to all aspirants. This is indeed a gold mine fit for repeated reading and meditation. This English version of the Yoga Vasishta Sara is based on a translation made by Swami Sureshananda, an old devotee of Bhagavan Ramana, who has founded an ashramam named Vijnana Ramaniyam at Palghat and has translated several works of Bhagavan as well as the Yoga Vasishta Sara into Malayalam language. An English translation of the Brihat Yoga Vasishta, that is the original Yoga Vasishta by Vihari Lal Mitra, is unfortunately out of print. Translation of Laghu Yoga Vasishta by K. Narayanaswamy Iyer is available from the Theosophical Publishing House at Madras. Yoga Vasishta Sara, Chapter 1, Dispassion. Salutations to that calm effulgence which is endless and unlimited by space, time, etc., the pure consciousness which can be known by experience only. Neither one who is totally ignorant nor one who knows the truth is eligible to study this book. Only he who thinks I am bound, I must become free, is entitled to study it. Until one is definitely blessed by the Supreme Lord, he will not find either a proper guru or the right scripture. Just as a steady boat, O Rama, is obtained from a boatman, so also the method of crossing the ocean of samsara is learned by associating with great souls. The great remedy for the long-lasting disease of samsara is the enquiry, who am I? To whom does this samsara belong? This enquiry entirely cures the disease of samsara. Not a day should be spent in a place which does not possess the tree of a wise knower of truth with its good fruit and cool shade. The sages are to be approached even if they do not teach. Even their talks in a light vein contain wisdom. The company of sages converts emptiness into fullness, death into immortality, and adversity into prosperity. If sages were concerned solely with their own happiness, with whom could those tormented by the sorrows of the samsara seek refuge? That which is imparted, O good soul, to a worthy disciple who has become dispassionate is the real wisdom. It is the real purport of the sacred texts and is also the comprehensive wisdom. Following the customary method of teaching is only for preserving the tradition. Pure awareness results solely from the clarity of the disciple's understanding. The Lord cannot be seen with the help of the sacred texts or the Guru. The Self is seen by the Self alone with the pure intellect. All the arts acquired by men are lost by lack of practice, but this art of wisdom grows steadily once it rises. Just as an ornament worn round the neck is considered lost through forgetfulness and is gained when the mistake is realized, so also the self is attained when the delusion is removed by the words of the Guru. He is indeed an unfortunate person who, not knowing his own self, takes pleasure in sense objects, like one who realizes too late that the food eaten by him was poisonous. That perverted man who, even after knowing that worldly objects are deceptive, still thinks of them, is an ass, not a man. Even the slightest thought immerses a man in sorrow. When devoid of all thoughts, he enjoys imperishable bliss. Just as we experience the delusion of hundreds of years in a dream which lasts for an hour, so also we experience the sport of Maya in our waking state. He is a happy man whose mind is inwardly cool and free from attachment and hatred, and who looks upon this world like a mere spectator. He who has understood well how to abandon all ideas of acceptance and rejection, and who has realized the consciousness which is within the innermost heart, his life is illustrious. On the dissolution of the body, the ether, that is consciousness, which was limited by the heart or hridayam, alone ceases to exist. People lament needlessly that the self is extinct. When pots, etc., are broken, the space within them becomes unlimited. So also, when bodies cease to exist, the self remains eternal and unattached. Nothing is born and nothing dies at any time. It is Brahman alone appearing illusorily in the form of the world. The self is more extensive than space. It is pure, subtle, undecaying, and auspicious. As such, how could it be born and how can it die? All this is the tranquil one without beginning, middle, or end, which cannot be said to be existent or non existent. Know this and be happy. O Rama, it is indeed nobler to wander begging about the streets with an earthen bowl in hand than to live a life steeped in ignorance. Neither disease nor poison, nor adversity, nor any other thing in the world causes more suffering to men than such stupidity engendered in their bodies. Chapter 2: Unreality of the World. Just as the great ocean of milk becomes still when Mandara mountain, with which it was churned by the Devas and the Asuras, became still, even so the illusion of samsara comes to an end when the mind is stilled. Samsara rises when the mind becomes active and ceases to be when the mind is still. Still the mind, therefore, by controlling the breath and the latent desires or vasanas. This worthless or burnt out samsara is born of one's imagination and vanishes in the absence of imagination. It is certain that it is absolutely unsubstantial. The idea of a live snake in a picture of a snake ceases to be entertained when the truth is known. Likewise, samsara ceases to exist when the truth is realized, even if it continues to appear. This long-living ghost of samsara, which is the creation of the deluded mind of man and the cause of his sufferings, disappears when one ponders over it. O Rama, Maya is such that it brings delight through its own destruction. Its nature is inscrutable. It ceases to exist even while it is being observed. Wonderful indeed is this Maya, which deludes the entire world. It is on account of it that the self is not perceived, even though it pervades all the limbs of the body. Whatever is seen does not truly exist. It is like the mythical city of Gandharvas or a mirage. That which is not seen, though within us, is called the eternal and indestructible self. Just as the trees on the bank of a lake are reflected in water, so also all these varied objects are reflected in the vast mirror of our consciousness. This creation, which is a mere play of consciousness, rises up like the delusion of a snake in a rope and comes to an end when there is right knowledge. The delusion of a snake in a rope is due to ignorance. Even though bondage does not really exist, it becomes strong through desire for worldly enjoyments. When this desire subsides, bondage becomes weak. Like waves rising up from ocean, the unstable mind rises out of the vast and stable expanse of the self. It is because of that which always, of its own accord, imagines everything quickly and freely, that this magical show of the world is projected in the waking state. This world, though unreal, appears to exist and is the cause of lifelong suffering to an ignorant person, just as a non existent ghost is the cause of fear to a little boy. One who has no idea of gold sees only the bracelet. He does not at all have the idea that it is merely gold. Similarly, towns, houses, mountains, serpents, etc., are all in the eyes of the ignorant man, being perceived as separate objects. From the absolute point of view, this objective world is the subject or the self itself. It is not separate from the self. The world is full of misery to an ignorant man and full of bliss to a wise man. The world is dark to a blind man, that is, an ignorant man, and bright to one who has eyes, that is, to the realized person. The bliss of a man of discrimination who has rejected samsara and discarded all mental concepts constantly increases. Like clouds which suddenly appear in a clear sky and as suddenly dissolve. Likewise, the entire universe appears in the self and dissolves in the self. He who reckons the rays as non-different from the sun and realizes that they are the sun itself is stated to be in Nirvikalpa, or he is known as the undifferentiating man. Just as the cloth, when investigated, is seen to be nothing but thread, so also this world, when enquired into, is seen to be merely the self. This fascinating world rises like a wave in the ambrosial ocean of consciousness and dissolves in it. How then can it be different from the consciousness when it appears? Just as the foam, the waves, the dew, and the bubbles are not different from water, even so, this world, which has come out of the self, is not different from the self. Just as a tree consisting of fruits, leaves, creepers, flowers, branches, twigs, and roots exists in the seed of the tree, even so, this manifest world exists in Brahman. just as the pot, which ultimately goes back to mud, waves into water, and ornaments into gold, so also this world, which has come out of the self, ultimately goes back to the self. The snake appears when one does not recognize the rope. The snake disappears when one recognizes the rope. Even so, this world appears when the self is not recognized. This world disappears when the self is recognized. It is only our forgetfulness of the invisible self which causes the world to appear, just as the ignorance of the rope causes the snake to appear. Just as the dream becomes unreal in the waking state, and the waking state becomes unreal in the dream, so also death becomes unreal in birth, and birth becomes unreal in death. All these are therefore neither real nor unreal. They are the effect of delusion, mere impressions arising out of some past experiences.